Yes, obviously, I said right at the moment that it cut off that I was afraid that the video was getting too long. So, I guess I'm posting 2 videos. Part 1 and part 2. There was just a couple other things that I was going to touch on. When I talked about the attack in the apartment that I lived in, during that time that I was going through those attacks, I had some company over, and it was a male friend of mine and his girlfriend, which I got close with. And they were staying the night that night, and I started telling them about all of the stuff that had been happening to me and how scared I was about the demons and the things bothering me. Well, the girl takes me outside, and she tells me, "I believe you, because I live in a 100-year-old house. And ever since I was a little girl, whenever I was upset, there was a ghost that came to me." And I said, "Really? I've never really heard of many ghost stories, mainly it's like angels or demons or something along that sort." But she tells me that there's a little girl that used to live in the home. And this little girl is in really, really old-timey clothes, and that she would come and comfort her whenever she was upset and lay down on the bed and hold her. And I said, "Weren't you scared, a ghost, touching you?" And she was like, "No, because I've known her ever since I was a little girl. It's never scared me because she was always there to comfort me." And so I don't stay there, talking too long to her. I go on up and I go to bed. Oh, before I went to bed, she did tell me one thing. She said that she had asked it to come different places with her. That she had asked it to follow her, because she had been going through a rough time, and whenever she got upset, that it would be there to comfort her. Well, I go upstairs and I go to sleep. Now, in my dream, I see a little girl, and she's got blonde hair and pigtails, an old-timey dress, and she doesn't say anything, but she just wraps her arms around me, and she holds me because she knows that I'm scared because of what's in the house. Now, as she's standing there holding me, and I know that she's just trying to make me feel better, we look over to the side, and on the wall, we see a shadow at the bottom of the wall. Now, the shadow starts growing, and it grows bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it envelops the entire wall. And we are trembling with fear. And I know that she knows that that's what's in the house. Now, the sheer shock of seeing this thing wakes me from my sleep. I run downstairs and I go straight to her. And I ask her, I say, "Did she have blonde hair and pigtails, and was her name Madeline?" I don't know why. I mean, she didn't speak, but I don't know why I knew her name was Madeline, but I just did. And she says, "Yeah, how did you know that?" And I said, "Well, she was just in my dream," and I told her what happened. And that's when she started to get really freaked out. And she started to see the things that were moving in the house, things that would fall over without anything touching them. she laid her phone down on the bedside table going to sleep, and then she hears buttons being pressed, and it's 6666 all throughout the number pad, or the place where it shows us the numbers. And so she got really freaked out about it, and after that, that was when I had blessed the house, or said prayers over the house. Because when I say bless the house, usually someone would say that a priest came and blessed the house, or you burn sage. But the only thing that I knew to do was to pray over the house with my Bible, with hopefully more than one person present. So that would be doing it also. But I'm sorry, you'll have to excuse me. I hate being sick. But that was something that I had neglected to mention when I had my first video and I was talking about our experiences in the apartment. And there was another thing that I touched on in my second video, and that was my son's experience. Now, in my earlier video, I talked about my son sitting there staring and laughing at someone that wasn't there. And I really didn't go into what had happened. Now, to understand the story, you have to understand that the person that I'm with, they don't have living parents. Both of his parents passed away. And I've heard of his mother visiting, my nephew. My nephew's had a rough go of it so far. He's had a rough life. He's about to turn 5, I believe, and he's been bounced around, a little bit because they've had a lot of problems. And they always said that his mother was always present in his life. They had seen miraculous things. And I have never met this woman. Okay? I've never met his mother. I've never talked to her. And we were having my nephew and his parents over at our house for a few days. And during their stay, something miraculous happened at my home. And I truly began to believe that she really does follow him around, my nephew. I was laying in bed one night and I was having a really hard time. I was going through some kind of sickness and I was feeling genuinely terrible. And I was trying to lay in bed and read on my phone. And my son was in the playpen and he had a few toys in his playpen. And he has a certain laugh where he laughs at someone as opposed to, something, there's a certain laugh when he's laughing at someone that's trying to be funny. And I remember feeling so terrible, but I couldn't bring myself to just play with him. I felt so bad. And he would whine and cry, and I would console him and give him some toys and try to lay back down and read again. I was being a bit selfish and And I feel really bad about that now. You know, at the time I didn't realize. Maybe I should have just spent a little bit more time with him at that point, you know. Even though I felt really bad, I should have paid a little bit more attention. I mean, I didn't completely ignore him or anything like that, but I've always been really sensitive to my children, to their needs and to their wants, and for me to put something I was wanting to do, you know, ahead of holding and playing with him is something that I would, you know, feel really guilty about. But anyway, I was laying there trying to read, and all of a sudden, he looks up at the door. The door's cracked, and he starts laughing like he's laughing at someone. And I look over, and there's no one there. But I don't feel any negative presence, so I don't really think anything of it. If it's a good spirit and it's making my kid laugh, okay, you know, go right ahead. But I glance over, and he laughs about 3 times before I lean up, and I'm looking at him, and he's staring up like he's staring at someone, and I'm getting a little ill, though, you know, because every once in a while he'll whine, and he wants me to pick him up, and, you know, babies they always want you to hold them all the time. And I remember that as I'm leaning over and I look at him, I hear a voice. And I've never heard this voice before. I know it's not mine. And this voice says to me, "Look at your son. Really look at him. Look at how he smiles when you look at him." And I broke down. Because I realized that, you know, he needed to spend a little time with me then, you know. I don't know how I knew it, but I knew that was my husband's mother. I knew, it was like I knew who she was, and she didn't sound irritated with me. She didn't sound mad at me that I, you know, had been reading instead of, you know, sitting there playing with him. It was like she understood, you know, but she wanted to let me know that my son, you know, needed me right then, you know. He needed to play with me. He needed to be with his mommy right then. And I cried so hard. And I picked him up and I played with him the rest of the night. I didn't put him down. I felt very blessed to have got to speak with her. And when I got with the person that I'm with, they were an atheist, and they didn't believe in life after death, and I believe that after so many things that he's seen, that he's pretty much changed his mind on believing that there's a spirit world. So when I told him the story about his mother that he hadn't seen since he was 12, it was really something very good, you know. It was really something good that he was glad that she was looking after his nephew, and that she had got to see her grandchildren. So that is an example of my child being able to see things, and I know that that children all over the world, I've been doing a little bit of research on children that can see, ghosts and things like that. That he might, he's not the only one, but I'm starting to pick up on things that my mother saw in me, and even though that scares me to death, I'm hoping that I can take my knowledge that I've accumulated and help him as a growing person to develop and to adapt and understand, so that he doesn't have to be so lost like I was. I have one more thing. I had a question on my comments from the paranormal researcher, and he asked me if one of my stories was about an incubus, and I believe that in the second video, when I talk about being attacked by a demon and that it held my son on the ground, and that it was doing inappropriate things to me, I do believe that might have been what it was. But I could definitely tell that it was evil. It actually said something as I was trying to get it to stop, as I was trying to move my body and I was trying to defend myself. It said, just lay back and enjoy it. And I said, no, it didn't get far, but it tried, and it was a very, very scary thing. And I think that it was because we had some objects that were from a house that had some negative things in it. It was that house, my grandmother's old house, that has those things in it. And someone who is not familiar with meth, there is seances that they do that not every person on meth does them, but witchcraft sometimes goes hand in hand with that drug. And they say that even the making of the drug is a ritual, is an invocation of an evil spirit. It would be something to look up if you're interested in it. It's, mainly about how when you mix all those things together, those certain chemicals, it's like invoking, a negative spirit. It's a ritual. And when he did that in that house, I believe that's when those spirits attached themselves to that house and to numerous objects, because if you think about it, it seems from the stories that I've heard, from the things that I've seen, that some are almost hostage in certain places, and they look for ways to get out and to find a new host, like a parasite, pretty much. It's almost like they're confined to an area. Like that house that I was telling you about that my father walked in, and it seemed like it had been waiting for someone to walk in to attach itself to. I'm not sure, how long it takes, how long that it waits, what time is like for those beings, but obviously that one had been there a while. And there's numerous spirits in that house, so I'm thinking that one or however many had attached itself to something that was brought out of that house and took into my home. because they look for any way to get in your life, seep in through the cracks, where you won't notice. A lot of times it's something you won't notice. And I think a lot of the times, a lot of the reasons that I have so many stories is because I'm so self-aware. And then I don't joke and kid myself into thinking that what's happening is whatever's happening at the moment is what it wants me to believe it is. I look at it and see it for what it is. And I don't allow it to trick me into thinking. Really, really study yourself and really understand what your conscience sounds like. That's I think the best advice against guarding yourself against these things and for them to slip into your life. I think that's one of the best things that anyone can tell you, is to know yourself. Know your voice, know your heart, know your soul. So when you hear thoughts in your mind, and they will whisper them to you, and they'll act like it's you talking to yourself. But know yourself. But anyway, I know this video is extremely long, but I thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to seeing your comments and emails. Again, I'll post my email underneath these videos, and maybe I'll hear something from you and get back with you as soon as possible. If you would, hit like and subscribe if you liked this video, and just shoot me an email or a comment, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.